back for another video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a story time about when my son, or our oldest son, had seizure episodes. And yeah, so that's going to be today's video. I do thank you for joining in with me again today. Do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We will be doing Vlogtober, which means for every day in October, we're going to try and release a new video. It's something new. I've never ever done that. I typically do about one video a week. Lately, I've been releasing more than one a week, but I'm trying to get on a schedule. Sorry, let me just get better lighting here. Yeah, so I'm trying to get on a better schedule, and yeah, so I hope you all tune in or stay tuned for the whole video and come back and enjoy some more videos that are coming out. I do have my daughter here nursing, so if you see little hands or feet, that's just her. So yeah, so basically, what's the matter, baby girl? Everything started in October or November of 2014. I was pregnant at the time. We were sitting on the couch one evening. My husband had just got home from work not long before, and we were sitting on the couch. We were on the phone with our phone provider, and all of a sudden my son said, "Mom, that my head hurts," and he was grabbing the back of his neck, and so I just held him, and all of a sudden went limp, and he just fell kind of into my arms, and just gazing, he looked kind of lifeless. Like, it was the scariest moment I've ever encountered. All I remember freaking out with my husband and telling him, something's wrong, like, call an ambulance. We were just, like, I guess in shock. He was still on the phone with the phone provider, and I got my cell phone and obviously called the ambulance as soon as he came out of it. I got my husband to stay with him, and so I was on the phone with the ambulance. They arrived quite fast. As soon as they got here, they checked his vital signs, and then I went with him to the hospital. They kept him overnight to monitor him, and everything seemed to be okay. They just kind of said, you know, it was a seizure, and we don't know what kind of seizure. It's not a typical onset of seizure, but hopefully it don't happen again. So basically, we were monitoring him, and nothing seemed to really happen for a couple of months, and then March 2015 came around, and again, I was pregnant for a second time. We had a loss in December, so if you check back, I'll link it in the cards above here. If you check back, we had a terminated pregnancy around 19-20 weeks in December, and so I was pregnant again with our third son at the time, and he had another episode, and so I contacted the doctor, our family doctor, and I said, you know, he's having an episode. I didn't bring him to the hospital that time. His episodes are very short, so basically his onset was the same, going limp, just staring like lifeless, and you know, they were about 45 seconds or so. They weren't overly long at all, which I'm thankful for, because I know some kids have seizures and convulsions and it lasts a long time. The one thing is that our son never ended up having these convulsions, so his, again, was not a typical onset of a seizure. And so I contacted my doctor, and he saw him the next morning. The next morning we went in, we checked him out. Things seemed okay, his vitals seemed okay. And yeah, so we were just told to keep an eye on it. A few hours after I saw him, he ended up having another seizure. And so I contacted my doctor again, and he told me, you know, I think it's best if you go up to the hospital at this point. You may need to be seen by a pediatrician. We don't have pediatricians in our area, which meant we would have to travel somewhere. And he was calling the hospital to talk to the doctor that was currently on call in Emerge department, to let him know that we were coming in and what was going on and what he would like to do, which was basically to get us sent to, I think, to see a pediatrician, which about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours away. So we went in, we saw this doctor. It was a newer doctor. From the moment that I saw him, I was not overly impressed by the bedside manners. He basically told me that I shouldn't worry. These situations happen all the time, and this was, you know, a good, not a bad situation. Like, he's seen them last longer, and you know, if he was the parent in my shoes, or if this was his child, he wouldn't be worried, and whatnot. So I was very brought back, you know, from the situation. But I guess because I've always dealt with, you know, quite well-mannered doctors, I wasn't satisfied with how he was treating, and especially being a young child. He was, you know, about 2.5, going to be 3 in June at the time. And so I was really unsatisfied with how he was reacting to the situation or what he was doing. He ended up calling the pediatrician and saying, you know, it's not really an emergency, but I think you need to see this child, so we'll do a follow-up. So basically, he had scheduled us an appointment with the pediatrician, which was, I believe, like 2 to 3 months from the time we were in the hospital. So there was nothing more I could do. You know, I said, well, I thought we were getting transferred, you know, to a pediatrician, like that from what my doctor was telling me. But he said, you know, I've seen situations like this. I work emerge only, and this is not a situation that needs to be, you know, addressed immediately with a pediatrician. So he's the doctor, he makes the calls, and I said, okay, that's fine. So we left the hospital, and I'm putting him in his car seat, and what do you know, he has another episode. I was freaking out. Again, it was the same onset. It wasn't very long. This one was probably even a little bit shorter, 30 seconds or so. And I then called my doctor immediately from the parking lot. And I explained to him what had happened in Emerge. And I told him, you know, I'm really not happy. Like, I don't even feel like I want to go back into the hospital because of how the situation was treated. Basically, I felt like he made me feel like, you know, this isn't even worth a hospital trip, basically. So he said, I need you to go back in there and I will call. So he ended up calling while we just made our way within a couple minutes. And thankfully that doctor that we seen the first time was finishing his shift. So we ended up seeing another doctor, but obviously they were both there and he saw us. It ended up that they checked him out again. His vitals seemed okay. He was just very tired, and they said that at this point they were arranging for us to get transferred by ambulance to the nearest hospital that had a pediatrician, which was about an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours away from us. And so on we went. So we got transferred to a pediatrician, and little did I know that we were going to be there for 1 week. So we were in that hospital for 1 week. At the time I wasn't, excuse you, at the time I wasn't a vlogger, so I do have a couple pictures and videos that I'll be inserting shortly. Here's a little spit up. And yeah, so basically we were there. They ended up doing an ECG, I believe it is, of his head, and that turned out to be normal. They also ended up doing an MRI, and that also ended up being normal, which I'm going to insert a small short clipped video right here. They ended up obviously sedating him so that didn't freak him out, and so they gave him something before bringing him down to the MRI, and I'll insert a video here. Here's just a little bit loopy, and I have a couple pictures. Say hi, Daddy. Say hi. Say hi.
Dante.
Devante. From that day, so or from that week, or from the stay in the hospital, which I'll also insert here. So after all that said and done, it checked out okay. The pediatrician ended up putting him on Keppra, which was a medication to help with seizures, and see if that did a difference. So we went home. We had follow-up appointments that we had to do with the pediatrician. And yeah, so he was put on medication. We ended up seeing the pediatrician 2 times. And within those times, the last time, which was a year after his medication roughly, I asked the doctor if we could start weaning him off his medication because he hadn't had another episode. And she advised that that was okay, so we started weaning him off. And if he was to have another episode, he would have to go back on. But thankfully, we took him off the medication. He had one small, slight episode since, and it was pretty close, you know, within a couple months, but it was such a small episode, and I told the doctor, you know, I felt comfortable just waiting it out a little bit, and so that's what we done. I don't even think that's a word. That's what we did, and yeah, so he hasn't had another episode since. He's been weaned off his medication for a couple of years almost. Yeah, actually, because he was about 2.5. Yeah, so he's been off the medication for not that long, 2.5, 3.5, about a year and a half now, and he's doing great. He hasn't had any signs. one thing that we notice is when he gets those or he's about to get one, he often complains about the lower back of his neck. And so we have had some periods of time where he said, you know, maybe 3-4 times, Mom, like, back of my head really hurts. And so if that happens, we just really monitor him for a little bit and make sure he's okay. And the school is also advised of anything. So yeah, basically things are great, and I'm so thankful. We were never given a diagnosis. He did end up having a second ECG done as well between that time, and there was nothing that showed up on that one as well. We never were told what kind of seizure he was having, but that it just wasn't a typical onset of a seizure, but it was some kind of seizure. We just don't know. If things did continue, they said that also they would repeat another MRI just to make sure, but we've never had to go through that at this point. So yeah, so that's basically our experience. If you're a mom or, you know, anyone watching this channel that's experiencing a loved one, somebody close to them, a child, or anyone experiencing something like this, I would love to hear your stories. Let me know, you know, are they going through it, what the outcome was if they don't have them anymore? Did they use medication? What their onset? Did they have typical symptoms like a seizure symptom? Did they have convulsions or not? And just let me know what they ended up finding out if you do have any answers. And if you are that person going through something like this, I do send you all my love and support and prayers. I know that this is not an easy situation, especially when you experience somebody going through, especially such a young child. It is so scary. I know, like, my nerves were shot. And so I do pray for you, and I hope that, you know, you have a good outcome. And if you're still here watching this, I thank you for sticking through the whole video. I want to thank you again for all your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We have many more videos coming, and I hope you liked it, and we will see you next time. Bye.